Hey everybody. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. Um, had a few technical difficulties. Hopefully everybody wants to interact in the chat, and we'll get started. So today we're going to make a contribution to Terraform, and I figured I get asked a lot of questions about how to get started contributing to open source and how to, where to start. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to kind of share this with you all and live stream me doing a contribution. So with that, let's set the context for the contribution. So if you've tuned in to any of my other live streams, then hey Eric, what we've done is we worked with the Grafana data source in the Grafana provider for Terraform. And as part of that live stream, we tried to figure out one of the properties here. Let me jump down here. There's a property in the data source that specifically for influx that was access mode. So right here, access mode. And you can see here in the context of this that the default is proxy, but it doesn't tell you what any of the other providers or options are for this setting. So we had to go dig around in the documentation for Grafana to find out what the two keys are that could be passed in there. And since they're a string, there's no way we could really know. So if you take a look at some of these other providers like the Azure app service, if you scroll down and we look here that there's this connection string, this is just an example type. It tells you what the possible actual values are. And then if there's a default value, then typically they'll list like, here's some possible values, Azure Blob, Azure Files. And then there's other ones that tell you like here, this can be true or false, and it defaults to false. So if you look here on the web page, false is highlighted. See, it's got a kind of a special highlight to it. Might be a little hard to see on the screencast, but it's there if you go to the page. And if you scroll down, all these ones that have these options here have that. But if we go back over to this part of the documentation, proxy isn't highlighted, it's in quotes, and the other possible values are not there. And I said in the last live stream that this is a good opportunity to contribute to open source and submit a code change for this. So let's go see if somebody did that. And if they didn't, then we're going to do that. So we're going to make this documentation look more consistent with existing documentation and help the next person out know the two values that need to go in there. So with that said, let's hop over here to the Terraform website. This is where most of the documentation is stored inside of the content here, content folder. And I believe it's under, it's under data source. And then you can see assets, docs. We can scroll down here, providers. So this is some details about providers here. So let's see if we can find Grafana. Let's kind of get an idea of the lay of the land before we dive in. So this is actually linking to ext, providers, Grafana, website, docs. So we know that. So let's hop back up here. Let's see if we got an ext folder. Maybe it's up one more at the content level. Nope. So we're going to should have looked and counted. There you go. Let's see. I doubt it's in here. Okay, let's go back here. I should have. You're seeing this live, right? So you're seeing all the mistakes. So let's find out where this documentation lives before we go any further. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Is it in the root here? Might be. Maybe I dismissed it. Oh yeah, there you go. ext. Should have just went back to look. And then we can go to providers. And where's this Grafana one linking to? Okay, so it looks like the docs live inside of the Terraform Grafana provider repo. We might have assumed that, but there's no way to know, so we went looking. Right. I'm going to assume it's probably right here under website docs. And there is the markdown for the data source. So this is where we're going to want to make this edit. Now we could, so the first thing we should probably do is kind of look at what the contribution guidelines are. So we know where we want to make our change would be right here. So let's go up to the root of this website or the root of this repo. And let's take a look here. There is a README. So always start with the README. Let's kind of get a list here. Let's look through to how you develop it. And there is nothing about how to make a contribution to it. And there doesn't seem to be any thing outside of how you actually build the provider. So what we can do is, let's jump up, just go back to Terraform GitHub website. Got a Firefox update. What do you know? In the middle of the live stream. Oh, this is how it never works out. Okay, so we're back. So if I can type here. Okay, we'll go back to this root. It's not the right one. We can hop back up, just to hop back down to the Terraform website. And let's just get a quick idea of what the contribution guidelines, maybe they're outlined here. How to run the site locally, writing normal docs content. So here you go. Stable website branch, providers repo, community members should target pull request at master and not worry about it. So there you go. We need to make a change to the docs and commit that pull request against master. So that should be fairly straightforward and simple. So we're going to take the easy way tonight and not the hard way. And I'll try to do one with the more longer involved way. So I think a couple more people have joined. So hello, and glad you could make it out. And to kind of catch you up, we're going to make a contribution to documentation for Terraform, actually for the Grafana provider. And that's kind of what we're going to do here. I will say, for anybody trying to think about how to get into doing open source contributions, hold on a second. So for anybody thinking about how to do open source contributions, documentation is a good place to start. It's easy or easier. You're typically reading the documentation if you're using the project, and you're going to end up on the documentation to figure it out, and you're going to find out that it doesn't match, and you're actually going to work around whatever solutions, and then you're going to come up with an answer, and you're going to be like, I wish that was in the documentation. That's the perfect place to plug in. That's the perfect place to make a contribution. That also is a good way to ramp up and get ready for contributing source code. So my recommendation typically start with the docs, learn the ins and outs of the project that way, and then you can jump into doing actual contributions of code. So, okay, so we're here. We found what we needed. We just need to submit this back to master. So before we go any further, let's hop over to the issues here. Make sure that there's not one for this. So there's the Grafana data source. Provider does not add settings. I don't see it right off the bat. So let's just do a quick access mode or access. Let's just search for access. So this right here, another tip about contributing to open source, starting with things that say good first issue. That's usually a good first thing to start with, which would be kind of cool to show and walk through. And maybe I'll do that one. Maybe we'll do a live stream over this one if somebody doesn't go here and grab it. A little concerning. It's been open for a year, but you know. Okay, so I don't see anything around access mode documentation in the issues, and I don't see update resource, Grafana data source, provider, Grafana dashboard, SDK. So there's 2 PRs open that are. So let's see if any of them touch the doc files. It's usually file changes here. So go. I'm sorry, I just scrolled super fast. I am not seeing any changes to the. Let's control F here and let's just look for access mode. So there's the default being set. Nothing was okay. So they set a default in this one. So the 4 matches here. This is the test. So the 2 values here, by the way, are proxy and direct. Proxy maps to server, and direct maps to HTTP. Yeah. So we'll go get the right wording before we finish this up. And that's it. So it looks like this one doesn't have any changes to what we're wanting to make. This one's changed 96 files. It's a big one to look for. I probably normally wouldn't do this much due diligence, but you know, it's a good idea to kind of. So nothing here about access mode, so that's good. So I think we should do it. So first things first, I like to open up an issue, and in that issue, I'll just new issue. Let's see if they got a template. So they say they like to keep this for issues for bug reports and feature requests. That's fine. The templates here. So what we'll say here is the So basically, I'm just going to say that the influx data source, which is the one we're looking at, right? So Grafana data source. Well, it's just Grafana data source. The type's influx, right? So let me clear that up here. So the data source resource docs are missing information about access code, right? So on the website, access mode lists proxy and doesn't mention that direct is an option or how neither are mapped to what is displayed in the UI for reference. Also, the values are not highlighted the same as the other documentation, right? We talked about that. Okay, so we're going to submit this issue. So we can reference this with number 92, right? I'm not going to be able to assign this to me, but that's okay. So what we'll do now is we'll hop back up here. So we got our issue. We know it's number 92. So we'll just go to our docs page here. Website, docs, our data source. And we can just click the little edit icon, which will wire this all up. So they created a fork for me already, and I can edit it right here in the UI. And for small doc changes, that's probably not a bad way to go. I wouldn't recommend that this be like the way you do this for major code changes and things, but for markdown small doc changes, this is a perfectly fine way to do it. And this one's a pretty simple one. So let's get down here to our access mode. Right here, it's optional. The method for which the browser-based Grafana application will access the data source. The default is proxy. So let's go over here to, I guess we're going to have to go to the Azure provider and kind of see how they do it. It could be any provider, really. So that's fine. Let me scroll back up here, because we're going to have to find what we want to do here. So there's access mode, right? And then we can hop over here. Does anybody have any questions right now? Nope, not seeing anything in the chat. So we know what we're doing. The kind of the example that I ran was with the Azure one. So we'll go look in the docs there, since I know my way around that one pretty well. At least I know what I'm looking for, which is kind of nice. Let's hop down to app service, or that's app service. Yeah, it's the one we were kind of referencing here. We want to view this raw. And let's drop down here and let's find one that has examples here. So possible values. So they use single backticks to make it highlighted the way that the other ones are. So instead of using double quotes here, so the default is proxy, and we need backticks. There you go. So the default is proxy, which means that the application, we'll just say proxy maps to proxy is displayed in the Grafana admin as server. Other values, the other value is direct, which is displayed as, here, let's keep with keeping it formatted here, direct, which is displayed in the Grafana admin as browser. I'm looking at my notes from the last live stream. As browser, which is direct, right? So there you go. So we highlighted the two possible values. What does everybody think about this? Do they think that's a good solution? So the method by which the browser will access the default is proxy, which means that the application will make requests via a proxy endpoint on the Grafana server. Proxy is displayed in the Grafana admin as server. The other value is direct, which is displayed in the Grafana admin as browser. Now, if I had known this when I did the last live stream, it would have been a lot easier. And I think I could have found stuff a lot more. So please give me some feedback in the chat. Do you think that's clear? Do you think it's confusing? And I'm going to crack open a Dr. Pepper. Okay, so I haven't gotten any feedback just yet. Seems to be a little bit of a delay here. So I have this done. So I'm going to start writing up my proposed file change and a little bit of description for my pull request, and give people a chance to comment back if they think I should change this or not. So I'm updating the access mode setting, description, and then saying it like the other. Let's see what they say over here on this side. Possible values. How about I say possible values? I'm going to have to say it some way like that. Other. I think I'll just roll with it and we'll get some feedback. Thanks for the comment there. Access mode didn't list the possible values and was not formatted. Like other provider documentation. So this is a really minor change, but it's a win. So it didn't list the possible values. Or an explanation to how that mapped to the Grafana admin UI. And then formatting to be like other, like the other provider documentation. Okay, so at this point, I think I got a clear title. So when people are reading this pull request, they're going to know what it's about. Updating the access mode setting description for data source. Oh, it's going over 50. Yeah, we'll roll with this. They'll know. And then explanation. Oh yeah, where did I say? Oh, look at that. Pair programming for the win. Thank you, Eric. And I got to check out my stuff for misspellings now. Access mode didn't list the possible values. Okay, so I think this is good. I think this explains the problem. And then if you want to put in here fixes, or we can say closes pound 92. And this will automatically close that issue when this PR is merged. So you can link things like this. You can say fixes, closes, and a reference to them, and this will automatically link them together. So just keep that in mind. So you can do it from the issue and reference a PR, or you can do PR to reference the issue. When you do a PR to reference the issue, you can close it. And there's also little shortcuts like that that you'll learn as you work more with GitHub. Azure DevOps kind of works this way. When you reference and link tickets, Jira and Bitbucket, most of the tools you're going to be using in a dev shop, you're going to be able to link and close issues automatically. So I want to click propose file change. And it says that looks good. So there's no issues here. If I wanted to be thorough, I could probably pull this down and build it myself. This is a small change. Shouldn't cause any build issues. It's just marked down. I'm not doing anything weird. And it's consistent as the other one. So I feel pretty confident in creating a pull request here. So the pull request is just going to take my information. So I want to create a pull request. As part of a pull request, they're going to fire off any policies that they have in the repo. So be prepared when you submit your PR that these checks are going to happen. Some projects are going to be like, hey, did you sign our contributor's license agreement? A contributor license agreement is you saying that you're signing over your copyright or ownership of the code to the project. That's legal reasons. I'm not a lawyer. You want more details than that, then, talk to a lawyer. So with that said, read up about CLAs. It's to protect the project. It's nothing about you. And make sure that if you're doing that, if you have a legal team at the company you're working for and you're doing it on the company time, then, you need to make sure you have the permissions to give away that, to make that contribution back. So, cross your I's, dot your T's. See, look at that. I messed the phrase up. So cross your T's and dot your I's. Talk to people, talk to your boss, talk to legal, explain to them what you're trying to do. If you're going to end up participating during company time. So you'll have a CLA. Sometimes they'll check to see if you signed it. Other checks will be like a build here. So they're running a build on the PR. So this will make sure if I committed bad code or, some bad markdown. It also tells you if there's any conflicts. So something that's going to be common with projects is when you submit a PR, say you made your fork 3 or 4 days ago and you're doing the work and a bunch of stuff's being committed back into master, accepted, and you're now out of date. Most projects are going to request that you rebase your feature branch on master. One, because it makes it easier and there's less chance of conflicts. Second is it does, in my opinion and a lot of people's opinions, it makes a little cleaner history in your git commits. So you won't see 2 merge commits back and it'll look like they came in the order of which they were submitted. That's really nice because it makes it clean, makes there's less problems and confusion. So the good thing is it's an open source project. They're using Travis CI. We could have went here and, checked out the details of the build if we really wanted to. What did they do? Pull request, go. Here's all the build output. Here's kind of what happened. So you do have that option with any open source project that has these policies linked in. Is typically they can link back to these checks. So that's it. This pull request is submitted. It shows up here in the official list. I can't close it. It automatically tagged it as documentation. The size, which I thought was kind of interesting, is extra small. So this is some customization that they've done. Like this one here is, double XL. Every project's going to be kind of different. But this is the one that's different here. It's kind of labeling the size, which I really like, because then, they can kind of know if it's going to take a lot to review, if they need more time, or somebody could probably do this on their phone since it's so small. There wasn't a lot of detail in the repo, so I realized that some people may not like these really small PRs. So if you get a PR submitted, stay with it, take the feedback. Maintainers aren't being grouchy if it feels like they're being short. Part of it is you're probably a little defensive if this is new to you. So, work through it, work with them, try to understand, ask questions, and make it better. Like my first couple of open source projects that I contributed to, I didn't know how to rebase. Thanks, Eric. I didn't know how to do rebases and squash my commits. And, different workflows. Like some people use GitFlow, PRs to master. Some people require you to make it on a feature branch and submit it in. Some people require you to do GitFlow, so you'll submit to different branches. And that's just all part of the process. And it's a lot to take in, but stay with it. Start small. Small changes makes it easier to learn. Starting with documentation. Documentation's often neglected. Not being negative there, but it's one of those things that you don't have a lot of time to work on this open source project. You're going to write code. Some projects do a really good job of documentation. Most do. But, when you only have a limited amount of time, sometimes the docs just don't get the attention. And so, come by and just help them with that. That's a great place to get started, and you're going to learn a lot. So thank you to everybody that kind of joined in. Not taking up a full hour tonight. We kind of sat down and did the work. It'd be cool if the project accepted this right now or gave some feedback, but that's not going to happen tonight. The repo up here, and the PR here. So if you're really curious, you can just hop over here on GitHub, look me up. My link's on my website, so phillipsj.net. You can get to my GitHub, which if we go to, so if we go to my GitHub right here, you should be able to see this on anybody's. You can kind of see activity, and you can see here that, this is another one that I've made yesterday that got accepted. But eventually this will show up here in this list. So, you can kind of keep an eye on it. So if you're really interested in what's going on here, you can see here, well, there's the one that I submitted today. I committed this one the other day. Yet again, that's another documentation fix. And then that's the one up there above. So if you look through my activity, you're going to see a lot of doc commits. And I'm telling you, that's just an easy, good way to get started and to stay active and help a project out. So with all that said, please subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please like the video. If you found this useful and want me to do more live streams related to this, leave me a comment here and I will try to get back to you in a day or two. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on GitHub at PhillipsJ. You can find me on Twitter at PhillipsJ73. So like I said, visit my website. It's in the description. Reach out to me. Let me know what you think. You can get a hold of me several different ways. So thanks for joining, and we'll call it a night.